Can you tell us about the experience of flying under fire in combat?
Well, my combat flying was over in Vietnam, and every time that we would fly in that one C-133, we knew we were being shot at. When we'd go back after landing and go up to Okinawa, you could see some holes in the wings. So that was my combat.
I didn't have the opportunity, thanks to segregation, I never got to go overseas.
Just a simple question. Did any of these special airmen land on an aircraft carrier? Did you ever take off or land? Did any of them that you know were part of your group? Did they ever have a chance to do this?
Jay says no.
Thank you. It's a supreme honor to be in your presence. My father was killed over Germany flying a P-51 Mustang when I was 13 days old. So I've been playing catch-up my whole life to be in the company of those who also took to the air for our cause. I don't have words for that. But I did have the question if any of the Tuskegee Airmen also flew P-51s.
I flew the P-51 in pilot training at Williams Air Force Base in October of 1948. And I also flew the P-47 at Lockbourne Air Force Base with the pilots who had flown overseas.
In the journal article, it calls the movie Red Devils. I was wondering if that was another name for the Red Tails. And also, did any of you see any German jets?
Is that another movie? Red Devils? Is that another movie?
I think they meant Red Tails for the Red Devils. No one, they're not familiar with that motion picture. It could be an older film, maybe from the 40s perhaps, or 50s. And then any German fire from the crowd? Jets? Nope. Okay, so I guess no, they never encountered any German planes or heavy fire.
Good afternoon. It is a privilege to be here with you. And to the gentlemen, these distinguished gentlemen, are you satisfied with the Lucasfilm? Because it's only the second that I've been able to find after an HBO. Hopefully there'll be a third or fourth. But are you satisfied with this rendition, this telling of your story?
Yes, I'm satisfied with the Lucasfilm. And in fact, in the movie making, accuracy is a very sensitive area. And if there were tests as to the accuracy of the film, I would rate Red Tails very, very high. That's my personal experience.
I thought the film was outstanding. You also need to see the documentary that Lucasfilms put out called Double Victory on your History channel. That'll give you a total picture of the Tuskegee Airmen.
I think it was 1995, HBO put out a film, Tuskegee Airmen. It concentrated on the training at the pilot school in Tuskegee, Alabama. This film is about those pilots who graduated and became combat pilots. And I give the Red Tails a B+. After all, it was a film, and it take a artistic license to do certain things which in order to enhance it. And now I understand Lucasfilm, I don't know what level, but at least the thought is out on my recitation on the Freeman Field incident, the segregation of the blacks over the officers club. He's begun to work on that. So that'll be a trilogy of the Tuskegee Airmen at the training as pilots, as combat pilots, and also the bomber group in fighting racial segregation.
So there's one more guy in back, and then I'll come back to you.
I have more of a statement than a question. I want to say thank you. As raising my son, one of the things I talked to him about is common day heroes, African American men that have given their lives for us. You've changed the course of my life, my child's life, my mother's life. And it's an honor just to be here in front of you guys. Thank you. Thank you for putting yourself in harm's way to change the path so I have the opportunity to be standing in front of you. And a college-educated man, my son's gonna have the same opportunity. Without you guys, it would be different these days. So I wanted to say thank you, honestly, thank you.
I have to ask, I was born in 1957, and I really can't imagine what it was like to live in the Deep South when you guys were living there and working there and being in the service there. And if you guys want to, I would personally like to hear any experiences, positive or negative, that you'd like to tell us about your experiences on or off base. Thank you.
I was born and raised in New York City, Midtown Manhattan, a low-income Irish and black neighborhood in a Jewish and Christian upward middle-class community. And that's from 59th Street to 72nd Street on the west side of Manhattan. They gentrified that community to put America's premier performing arts, the Lincoln Center, in that community. And just to give you an idea, and when I'm saying this, depending what your knowledge is about black history or blacks in America, blacks in the South, in the West, in the East, and the North, when you think of that, this little community we were located in, running from 59th Street to 72nd Street, were overwhelmingly, with whites. And we had the opportunity to use all the facilities in the community with very little racial discrimination. I'm aware today's St. Patty's Day, but I celebrate it because of my Irish schoolmates. Not a damn one can I remember, but that's the way that happened. Then another idea to give you an idea. Now the purpose I'm developing for is for you to understand. When you go from Florida up to Maine, you change the latitudes. And then on the latitude, whatever the latitude is in the Deep South, running from Texas to South Carolina, that's the heart of what most of you think and know about blacks. But just like all of you here come from other parts of the country or the world or different parts of America, blacks are the same way. And we are affected by the same cohesiveness, cultural cohesiveness in the little hamlet you come from, the state, the community, or wherever in America. And people do not realize that blacks are probably the widest group of people with diversity than anybody else. And we are around the country, and giving my example, growing up in a small community, in this small neighborhood with overwhelmingly white, using all the facilities with very little discrimination, you have a different outlook on people and yourself than those who were born in the Deep South. And people overlook that. There is no cohesiveness. There's no, basically, from my perspective now, I'm not trying to be a sociologist, but I'm saying from my adult experience, that there's no real cohesiveness of blacks except their race, their color, depending on there's no cohesiveness among blacks other than the fact that they're black with whatever degree of whiteness they got in them. That's the only thing. America rejects blacks, so they don't have the cultural cohesive white people have, or non-black and non-white have. At the same time, the immigrant who arrives to this country just in the next hour has a longer history of over 400 years of cultural cohesiveness than blacks have. All we have is rejection by the white male Christian. Thank you.
No matter how tough a battle it was definitely a battlefield where you had the rednecks and those that wanted to see a change in social adjustments being made in the United States. And so no matter how you look at it, it's still going on. It's a tough battle, except what's admirable of those that are on our side is now that they're not afraid to speak up. Before, there seemed to be some kind of a reluctance to want to state your views as to how people should live socially. And what I can say about that volume is that somebody's turning that one up, which is very, very good, and I'm very happy about it. Just a very small example, but it's illustrative of what's happening all over the United States. Where we did have a victory, although regardless of the nature of this victory, it was a victory. Where we did have a victory was once in St. Louis, pardon me, Louisville, I'm sorry. Louisville, Kentucky, which was outside of the base that we did most of our training in. A bunch of us were, of the black soldiers were given passes to go to a baseball game on a Sunday in downtown Louisville. And that was quite an honor, and we were going to make the most of it regardless of the makings of this particular movement by the opposition. However, when we got ourselves together, all dressed up, going to be able to see a big league ball game, you might say, big league where all the players were black. Everybody that worked there was a black person. However, there were people in the crowds that said, no, we don't even want that to happen. We don't want any victory to occur for the benefit of our opposition. And so when I and about two other cadets went there to see the ball game on Sunday, all set for a wonderful afternoon, and we had seats right behind home plate, we were refused. And not only refused, but we were rejected from that park, and we had to accept that. So it's going to be a long while before the two sides start to compromise and make some justifiable concession. So it's not over. It wasn't over then. We knew it was going to be a tough battle, but it would pop up in the most surprising places. I'm sure if you surveyed the cadets that went through there, they would have stories similar to my Louisville baseball game.